Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our English News Edition. Thank you for joining us. After making several sensational statements about the arrest of senior officials, and 4 months after saying the anti-corruption unit had 400 issues to review, the Prosecutor General has decided to restructure the unit. According to Adriatic Llalla, the anti-corruption unit has not been overburdened, and he blames the institutions for failing to refer cases of corruption among senior officials. The official statement from the prosecutor's office reads as follows. The Prosecutor General has decided to restructure the anti-corruption unit because of the terms of 4 of its prosecutors are ending. The workload of the unit has not been overly high, as corruption cases among high-level officials have not been referred by the institutions in the recent months. The prosecutor has indicated that there will now be 3 prosecutors to investigate corruption cases instead of 5. A joint unit to investigate criminal offenses for terrorist purposes will be comprised of 5 prosecutors as well, leaving a total restructured unit of 8 investigators. The Assembly Speaker Ilir Mehta held a meeting today with the Minister of Justice as well as 2 other ministers from the Socialist Movement of Integration. Afterward, the Minister of Justice Manjani spoke to the media, requesting comprehensive political consensus on the justice reform. Currently, the group of experts that is dealing with the constitutional changes is comprised of 2 from the Ad Hoc Commission for Justice Reform, 2 proposed by the Minister of Justice, and 2 from the Democratic Party. The minister said that the Venice recommendation must be followed that would prohibit the minister from being a member in 3 different justice bodies. Manjani said, "The recommendation of the Venice Commission is clear. There must be political consensus for a comprehensive reform, consensus for a minimalist constitution, and consensus to have a simplified constitution." That's what the Venice Commission says, and I think that this is the time for political dialogue. I think that this is no longer an issue for the experts, said Minister Manjani. A journalist from Ora News asked Manjani about the institutions in which the Minister of Justice should not be a member. He replied only this: the minister will not be where the Venice Commission said he will not be, and the minister will be where he should be. According to the Venice opinions, in order to avoid conflict of interest, the Minister of Justice must not be a member of the High Inspectorate of Justice, the High Judicial Council, or the Disciplinary Tribunal. The Assembly Speaker also received the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Integration. The meetings leave room for speculation about coming changes in the government, but Minister Manjani denied this rumor. The decriminalization law that was adopted consensually on December 17th will enter into power on January 7th. The law will apply to every incriminated individual that currently holds a position in Parliament or in a state institution. However, it has been announced that the verification of criminal background will be delayed for some time, because the bylaws that will regulate the process are not yet complete. Until that time, the self-declaration system should prompt any officials with a criminal past to leave their post voluntarily. Sources from the committee have informed Ora News that they are working on completing the bylaws as soon as possible to encourage the self-declaration of criminal past by every employee of the administration at all levels. After this phase, the data will be sent to the Prosecutor General for verification. It appears that the Democratic chairman Lulzim Basha is preparing himself for early elections. Sources from within the Democratic Party have told us that Mr. Basha is expected to issue an order for the chairman of the party branches to mobilize and to be ready for the elections. Mr. Basha has also requested that the process of electing the chairman of the Youth Forum be concluded by February. Meanwhile, during this week, Basha is expected to call the party leaders together to discuss the coming actions of the opposition, which is thought to be focused in 2 main directions: strengthening the structure for analyzing the June 21st local elections and preparing to resume the protests in order to bring early elections. The rain and the snow in the past days has left around 22,000 consumers without electricity throughout the country. The energy distribution operator OSHEE has announced that they are working on returning power to primarily the difficult mountainous areas. The director of the distribution department says that special attention is being paid to investments in distribution networks, trying to find efficient ways to reduce the defects. Measures have been taken to handle emergency situations, he said. Investments have been made in all the energy networks. There were no energy cuts over the holidays thanks to these investments, and the energy situation has improved compared to a year ago. OSHEE has invested 200 million lek in Tirana alone. The opposition has announced that they will be filing a lawsuit against Tirana's mayor, Erion Valiai, for granting the Rania Park underground parking lot as a concession. The Democratic councillors say that they are taking legal action because of the lack of transparency on the part of the municipality for this project. They also cite the occupation of the green space of the park and the fact that the concession is being given to a company whose shares have been frozen for not paying its obligations. The City Council decided that Rania Park will be given as a 30-year concession, and the municipality will receive 15% of that profit. The value of the investment is 1,937,000,000 new lek, the full amount of which will be provided by the concessionaire. The parking lot will have an entrance from Muslim Shuri Road, and the cost will be the same as other public parking areas, 100 lek per hour, followed by a reduced price for each additional hour of stay. The City Hall has reactivated a previous project started by Eddie Rama when he was the mayor of Tirana, giving the concession to the same company. The Interior Minister Saimir Tahiri gave a report today on the work of the state police in 2015. He considered their efforts to be successful, pointing out that the murder rate has been reduced to a record low and an increased number of criminals have been arrested. The minister was not optimistic, however, about the high number of traffic accidents. He indicated that the number has increased by 4.5% over the past year. The number of murders during 2015 was decreased by half, he said. There were 54 murders, and 30% of them were family crimes, which are a concern that should be treated socially. 8% of the murders were caused by negligence, and 3% for proprietary reasons, he said. Serious injuries were reduced by 20%, minor injuries by 10%, and over 11,000 people were arrested during the year. 2,746 wanted individuals were arrested during 2015. There were 35% fewer violent thefts and 18% fewer armed thefts in the year. The number of traffic accidents increased by 4.5%, and the deaths from the accidents have also increased. More than 1,800 drivers were arrested during 2015, said Mr. Tahiri. The Interior Minister also announced that the state police officers will soon be equipped with personal cameras. Journalists and civil society associations will have access to the footage, increasing the transparency of the police activity. Tahiri criticized the work of the prosecution, which, according to him, has stopped investigating some former officials of the ministry, including the investigation of Lulzim Basha for dereliction of duty. That's the end of our edition for this evening. Thanks again for watching. Please join us again at 6 p.m. tomorrow for more news in English. Thanks and good night.